Why are men increasingly afraid to interact with women at work? Recent research survey of 6,251 adults, 55% of whom are men and 47% women, found that it is much harder for men to interact with women at the workplace. It also found that 28% of women are losing opportunities at work due to men being uncomfortable working with them. Earlier this year, another US study showed after surveying 5,000 US adults, 60% of managers said they were uncomfortable doing common workplace activities with women. Many of them made it clear that they do not want to put themselves in a position where they are alone with women out of fear of potential lawsuits. More on this astounding story. Taifour. This is my YouTube channel, Kochi. I'm here in my house on the Central Coast in Australia. It's a beautiful sunny day. University of Houston recently did its own study. It came up with very surprising results. It actually found that 37% of men avoided one-on-one meetings with female co-workers. 21% of men said they would be reluctant to hire women for a job that would require close interaction, and 19% said they were reluctant to hire an attractive woman. The statistics reveal a shocking story. Listen to this unbelievable finding. 38% of women in the US alone, nearly 3 times the number of men, made claims that they had been sexually harassed in the workplace. This is one reason why most men today know exactly what sexual harassment means and how women can use it to ruin their careers.
The Me Too movement took down hundreds of powerful men. 2 years later, some say it is costing women opportunities and causing segregation in some workplaces. Larry Seward breaks it down.
The year Spacey, Weinstein, Moonves, and Lauer went down, and hashtag #MeToo rose in a tide that pushed 200 powerful men out jobs for sexually harassing women. UH business professor Dr. Leanne Atwater kept tabs and worried. Corporate America planned to cleanse cultures, listen to women violated, and take harassment complaints more serious. But
if you're lacking in integrity and you're kind of a sexist, then your answer to this is, okay, we'll just keep them out. And that'll solve the problem. We won't hire them, we won't include them, and then we don't have to worry about it.
So she ordered anonymous online surveys. 300 men, 300 women asked how Me Too changed their workplaces. Results published in Harvard Business Review say nearly a third of those men avoid one-on-one meetings with women. More than 20% reluctant to hire any woman for jobs that require travel or close interaction. Another 19% say they avoid hiring attractive women. On the review blog, one manager added, "Unfortunately, in my estimation, getting too close to women at work puts your career and reputation at risk."
Other casualties are business owners. I am referring to those who refuse to hire a talented employee just because a working relationship would require close interaction. The Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, refuses to eat or drink with a woman alone, unless his wife is present. This reminds me of a joke. A woman goes in for a job interview. The boss asks her, "What do you think is your worst quality?" The woman says, "I'm probably too honest." The boss says, "That's not a bad thing." The woman replied, "I don't care what you think. If women are so afraid to be raped, sexually assaulted, verbally attacked, and sexually harassed, then perhaps the workplace is not for them, and perhaps the world is not always a better place."
Men will be scared to hire women for fear of a sexual harassment claim. So are guys going to take a page from Mike Pence and every day will be take your wife to work day? People are now worried that men will just say, you know what, these women are bringing lawsuits, let's not hire them. You think that's going to happen?
There is a difference between hiring women and being just a man who can be around women and be respectful, and bringing an intern into your office and pulling down your pants and showing your
That's
genitals.
right.
Like, come on.
Come on.
Check out those statistics. Despite women's efforts, they account for less than 30% of today's senators and represent in the US less than 10% of Fortune 500 chief executives are women, and no woman has made it to the United States presidency, although Kamala Harris made history as the first black woman elected as vice president, shattering barriers that have kept men entrenched at the highest levels of American politics for more than 2 centuries. So whose fault is this? It could be that the modern world is not ready yet for successful women. A woman went for an interview, and the interviewer told her she'd start on a $2,000 a month, which would increase to $2,500 a month after 6 months. She told him, "I will start in 6 months." Western countries are not nearly as progressive as we might think they are on the issue of female ambition, while on the other hand, the career dream of progressive feminism remains an unworkable fantasy in the real world.
Are men too afraid to interact with women at work? Well, a new study out today found that 60% of male managers say they are uncomfortable interacting with women at work. That's up from 32% last year. And men are most uncomfortable interacting with women in these situations: mentoring, socializing, and in one-on-one meetings. Here's what Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg had to say about it on CBS This Morning.
We need to redefine what it means to be a good guy at work. It's not enough to not harass, and I think too many people think that's sufficient. That's necessary, that's a basic, but it's not sufficient. Women need equal opportunity.
Anything said now in this atmosphere could be taken way out of context. If I'm changing in the dressing room and the curtain's open and I'm in my underwear, all of a sudden I'm the guy in the dressing room in his underwear.
Like
and it could be taken way out of context.
Right.
I'm being serious though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tony Robbins is being accused of this. And as soon as you get accused of this, it's a long road back. Even if you didn't do anything, just the accusation itself brings people down.
It is time for women to finally realize that not all men are sexual predators, and face up to the reality that life can be tough, especially in the workplace, for everyone. By the way, for all those who think a woman's place is in the kitchen, remember that's where the knives are kept. I'm only joking. Here's another joke for you. A young woman executive is leaving the office late one evening when she finds the CEO standing in front of a shredder with a piece of paper in his hand. "Listen," says the CEO, "this is a very sensitive and important document, and my secretary has gone for the night. Can you make this thing work for me?" "Sure." She turns the machine on, inserts the paper, and presses the start button. "Excellent," says the CEO, as his paper disappears inside the machine. "I just needed only one copy." The hashtag #MeToo, which was first used on social media in 2006, was brought back to life in 2017 after prominent Hollywood actresses began to speak openly about sexual harassment in the entertainment industry. Well, what did they expect? It is called the entertainment industry.
And in your position as somebody who is an actress in Hollywood, that happens all the time.
Sure.
It happens to women and it happens to men
Sure.
all the time. Do you feel it?
Yes.
And how do you resist it?
Part of me has to embrace it. You have to. It's like it is the history of the earth. It's how we've operated so far. Women are objectified, especially women in the entertainment industry, because we're packaged and sold as sex. That's how you merchandise us. That's how you sell us. That's how you sell your magazines, or you get hits on your blog or whatever. If you have a sense of integrity and try and stay true to whatever your ideals or your beliefs are, that sort of in its own way fights against being stereotyped or put into any specific box.
For 3 years now, this simple phrase, #MeToo, has created more fear in men than ever before. And what's worse is that everyone is so afraid even to talk about it. Out of fear, they would become outcasts in today's society. While at the same time, that same movement has made it even more difficult for women to get ahead with their careers. And the result is both parties are losing and none of them is winning. It's a lose-lose situation.
Well, look, I would discourage a male in the current environment for taking on one-on-one mentoring. I would have to say, I think
really,
that,
in all circumstances.
I think that there is a general concern from a lot of men, and I think it was a very, very good question about how do they protect themselves from an accusation about their behaviour and their conduct. And I think that is actually something that men should be very conscious.
There's a perception that men have to really, really just be overly careful, that maybe there's an oversensitivity in some of these cases on the part of the women. So with that perception there, I mean, do men have reason to be a little concerned, and what can they do to protect themselves? I mean, is it as simple as bringing a tape recorder, setting your phone on record in every session? I mean, wouldn't that protect them?
Well,
it's not respectful.
It's not respectful, and again, you're treating women differently than you would your male employees. But for instance, I'll give you an example. If you typically, as a male, in a profession like mine, if you bring a female associate around and you typically have everybody at trial meet in your hotel room, don't meet in your hotel room anymore. Okay. Meet down in the lobby.
The statistics show that women make up roughly half the workforce. They also constitute more than half of the college-educated workforce. However, they make up only a fraction of the executive teams within the financial industry, where they constitute 61% of accountants and auditors, 53% of financial managers, and 37% of financial analysts, but only 12.5% of chief financial officers in Fortune 500 companies.
Being made to get more women into British boardrooms. Some extraordinary excuses have come to light as why men refuse to nominate them. Anna Stewart has the list. She joins me now from London. And interesting that this is public at all, but what are we finding out, Anna?
I mean, Maggie, it's really hard not to laugh when you read some of these genuine reasons that male CEOs and chairmen have given for not nominating women to the board. Let me run through some of my favourites. We have, I don't think women fit comfortably into the board environment. Then we have, most women don't want the hassle or pressure of sitting on a board. All the good women have already been snapped up. And perhaps my favourite, we have one woman already on the board. So we're done. It's someone else's turn.
In a recent survey, HR managers of large companies were asked if they would hire more women in leadership roles. 73% of them advocated for it. in other companies, and only 44% said that this was something their own company should do. This is laughable.
How are men navigating this Me Too era? There seem to be new rules of engagement, but no rule book. We live in a time where men are being challenged to look at ourselves and ask some hard questions. But the paradigm has shifted, and where men have been a part of the problem, now we have to step up and be a part of the solution. Avi Klein is a psychotherapist based in New York City. He's written in the New York Times about how the Me Too movement is causing men to reevaluate everything. I read an article that men in corporate spaces are avoiding women like the plague.
Yeah.
They're not having business lunches. They're not comfortable having closed door meetings with women.
Yeah.
Because somehow they feel like you're running the risk of being falsely accused.
Men should really wake up to how much slack we cut them. Because it's like, you know, when we talk about consent, sexual assault, things like that, we often have a conversation where it's like, well, you know, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she say no?
The hashtag MeToo movement hasn't achieved anything. All it has done is create more problems and confusion among both sexes about what counts as harassment. A Pew study showed that 51% of respondents believe that the focus on sexual harassment has made it harder for men to understand how to interact with women at work. Only 12% said it made it easier, while 36% were indifferent. What I don't understand is why professionals cannot act professionally.
Any of you as men a little concerned, uncomfortable, uncertain about how to behave and what can be construed as what?
Yes, as a matter of fact, as I was walking the hallway in my school, is there this teacher coming? I just passed by and I said, "Oh, you look beautiful," because she looked beautiful. And then I said, "Oh, what did I say?"
So you worried about whether that could be offensive?
Yeah, because you never know anymore.
In fact, a recent Pew study found that half of men say lately it's become a little tricky navigating interactions with female coworkers. We noticed a stark difference among the younger group, some of whom say comments on appearance shouldn't be a part of workplace banter.
If you comment on my appearance at work, I don't agree with that. And really, any comment you want to give me, I want it to be related to my work.
But isn't that kind of rigid? Suddenly we're not really relating to each other in that way of, you know, men and women, but now it's very work-oriented and let's not cross the line.
Well, we can relate, but we don't have to talk about our physical appearances or how we think someone looks.
A survey conducted by the Associated Press in collaboration with the software company SAP showed that 1/3 of working adults had talked about sexual misconduct in the workplace with coworkers. This is putting women at a disadvantage. What benefits are women deriving if men are afraid to be around them?
Any woman can say anything and a man's career is ruined. Now, a lot of women can say things that are true, and their career should be ruined.
By the way,
but the problem is,
by the way, hold on.
That any woman can say anything, and that's it. It's over. Is that how we're running business?
34% of men and 19% of women recently viewed the hashtag MeToo movement as being unfavorable.
I want to talk to all the men out there who have this concern. I want to say that I feel empathy. I understand. You're concerned that you're walking on eggshells. You feel vulnerable in the workplace. You're concerned that your words or your behavior might be misinterpreted as being something other than who you are.
We don't know what the new rules of the road are.
Welcome to the world of being a woman or a person of color or a member of the LGBT community or a person with disabilities in the workplace. That is part of the experience, having to take a risk in showing up. You're concerned that you may be labeled labeled as a creep because you compliment me on my beautiful dress. You know what? Sometimes I'm labeled as the B word because I smile too much. I think that we need to take this new experience that men are feeling in the workplace and actually channel it into something really positive, which is, why don't you work on creating a more inclusive culture and taking all of your frustration, directing it at the men who are making you look really bad, the bad apples, and not punish women in the workplace, because quite frankly, your whole enterprise is going to crumble if you don't figure out how to leverage and harness the ingenuity and creativity and talent of the women.
And I think the biggest issue today is we're living in a climate of hypersensitivity, microsensitivity. Men are afraid to do and say the wrong thing in today's post-movement era, which is a big issue. And look at us, there's so few female leaders. Leaders are predominantly men, and we need leaders to be our mentors. And if leaders, which are predominantly men, are afraid to be with women alone, we have a big issue. 3.5 times more men say today that they will not go alone with a woman for dinner. 5 times more likely men not wanting to travel with women.
About half of working adults in the US have reported that the high-profile coverage of sexual harassment and assault scandals is not benefiting anyone. In a US Today story, Johnny C. Taylor Jr., President and CEO of the Society for Human Resources Management, told the publication that male executives had conveyed to him that they are now more nervous about hiring women. According to the most recent statistics, only 2% of those harassed filed a formal complaint, while 90% never filed one, and 75% didn't even tell their employer.
Of men being worried about false accusations of sexual harassment, that may not be based in reality. The FBI, for example, has produced research that shows that only 2% of sexual assault claims turn out to be false. And that's actually no higher than any other type of crime. So men may be panicking over something that really isn't supported by the data that we have.
Talking about complaints, an HR manager told a woman who walked into his office with a complaint, "Just go to hell," to which she replied, "So should I stay or should I go?" Again, an HR manager told a woman candidate, "What is your biggest weakness?" She replied, "Interviews." And besides that, to which she replied, "Follow-up questions." When Bloomberg recently conducted interviews with more than 30 senior executives at the height of the #MeToo movement, they found that many succumbed to fear and even stopped supporting diversity leadership initiatives because of what they perceived as the risks of having more women around them.
Narrative of false reports, the narrative that Me Too has gone too far, has started to take hold in ways that are both dangerous and don't match the facts.
The surveys that I've read, the Lean In and McKinsey survey, and the anecdotal evidence I get as an employment lawyer is that this is real. That backlash is real. It's people subscribing to the Mike Pence rule, but it's not just dinners, it's travel, it's being in a car, being in an airplane, staying at the same hotel as a woman. But that is almost minor compared with the major risk that's occurring. And that's men who are withdrawing from being sponsors or mentors or supporting women so that they can get further in their careers.
A woman employee went to see her supervisor. "Boss, my husband wants me to do some heavy house cleaning tomorrow, so I need the day off." "Sorry, I cannot give you the day off." "Thanks, boss. I knew I could count on you." Research from Shannon Rowski at the University of Wisconsin labeled sexual harassment training as a waste of time, since men are not willing to describe themselves this way. As a result, companies are paying millions of dollars for employees to take classes on a topic that is not helping in building a culture that discourages harassment. Only 4 out of 10 working Americans said that training on harassment was benefiting. What happened to the other 6? Yet only 20% of women in the past 3 years felt as though things have gotten better at work, while close to 80% believe that no progress has been made towards equality. So what's the point of harassment training?
There's a professor at Harvard, Frank Dobbin. He looked at 30 years worth of diversity training at more than 800 companies. And he found that for 2 groups, for women as well as for Black men and women, diversity training actually made things worse. There were a variety of reasons for this, but one was resentment on the part of the white men who were the primary recipients of the training. It made them feel bad about themselves, which, by the way, turns out that was the point. I spoke to a veteran diversity trainer. He said, hey, what we used to do is basically bang white guys over the head with a 2x4. We wanted them to feel guilty, and if they cried, even better. So perhaps it's no surprise we've been using the wrong strategies for decades, which explains why, for example, women still earn just 80 cents on the dollar. And for Black women, that's 61 cents. For Latinas, that's 53 cents. And meanwhile, even though women earn more than half of all college degrees, we make up only 5% of CEOs of major companies. The Rockefeller Foundation did a survey. They found that 1 in 4 Americans believes we will literally invent time travel before women run half of Fortune 500 companies.
According to the famous magazine Forbes, a GlobeScan survey revealed that 41% of companies reported no change in their approach to women's empowerment. Another poll from Morning Consult showed that only 20% of women say things have gotten better for women in their companies in the last 5 years.
The repercussions of the Me Too movement are important to talk about. I'm sure a lot of women are happy about the fact that it has empowered them to hold powerful men accountable in the workplace. But guess what? Powerful women in the workplace also abuse their power. It's not just a men versus women's issue. And the problem with the Me Too movement is that it's become so much about political vengeance rather than actual justice. And there are cases where women need justice and they do need better HR systems in the workplace. It's important to talk about that. It's not good that we have 20% of men who feel uncomfortable mentoring women one-on-one, but there are simple solutions to that. Have more offices with glass buildings. And also we need to ask, why do men feel uncomfortable in those situations? Well, look what we just went through with the Brett Kavanaugh trials. Men are scared to be accused, to be falsely accused of any type of misbehavior for women. And this is what happens. This is the fallout of pitting men and women against each other.
Does this mean that the glass is half full or half empty? Should we praise companies for making 20% of women feel better? Let me add another layer of complexity. Creating a culture of fear among men is placing the blame on the victims. By that I mean women. So unless women realize that life cannot progress without experiencing a little discomfort, a one-day seminar is not going to make too much difference. Before I continue, let me tell you about these 2 co-workers. The woman says, I can make the boss give me the day off. How would you do that? The woman said, wait and see. She then hangs upside down from the ceiling. The boss comes in and says, "What the are you doing?" The woman replies, "I am a light bulb." And the boss says, "You have been working so hard. You have gone mad. Take the day off." Her colleague followed her, and the boss asked him, "Where are you going?" The man said, "I'm going home too. I cannot work in the dark." In the past few months, we have seen some of the richest and most powerful men, like Prince Andrew, fall in disgrace, embedded in a web of accusations of harassment and assault. But as the dust settled, all was forgotten. So what's the point? Nevertheless, according to the Harvard Business Review, 74% of women thought they would be more willing to speak up against harassment, and 77% of men anticipated being more careful about potentially inappropriate behavior. Still, according to one unnamed businessman, hiring an attractive woman is like playing with fire. Even the hint of wrongdoing makes you guilty in the court of public opinion. What he said supports the notion that attractive women may be perceived as being riskier to hire. Julia walks into her boss's office and she says, "I have got 3 companies after me and I would like to ask you for a raise." The boss finally agreed, and Julia happily gets up to leave. "By the way, which 3 companies were after you?" She replies, "The electric company, water company, and phone company." Motivational speaker Tony Robbins recently said that a dozen powerful men have told him that they are no longer hiring attractive women, and that these employers are instead opting to hire less qualified men over highly qualified, attractive women. This is what Tony Robbins said.
Tony Robbins has dedicated his life to teaching others how to improve their lives through his infomercial seminars and self-help books. And it's a multi-billion-dollar business. But after sharing why he thinks the Me Too movement is hurting women, the man who followers are so loyal to they walk barefoot across hot coals is taking some heat.
Tony Robbins travels the world inspiring legions of followers to transform their lives, giving motivational speeches at high-energy events that draw tens of thousands.
Wake up to all the beauty that's in your life.
This morning, the self-help guru is apologizing for his comments in this video, taken last month at one of his Unleash Your Power events. A woman standing up and challenging him in front of a packed arena in San Jose, California, after she felt he was critical of the Me Too movement.
So I think you misunderstand the Me Too movement.
Robbins responding.
So I'm not knocking the Me Too movement. I'm knocking victimhood. If you use the Me Too movement to try to get significance and certainty by attacking and destroying someone else, you haven't grown an ounce. All you've done is basically use a drug called significance to make yourself feel good. I just with someone the other day, very famous man, very powerful man, who's saying how stressed he is because he interviewed 3 people that day. 1 was a woman, 2 were men. The woman was better qualified, but she was very attractive, and he knew I can't have her around because it's too big a risk, and he hired somebody else. I've had a dozen men tell me this.
Now, that's costing women an equal shot. There should not be a company in the world that could afford to leave a talent on the sideline because it is a female. The final truth is that every woman matters. This is Majed J. Taifour, saying bye for now.